Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by Gerry Hamilton, here to talk a little Easter weekend recruiting. This edition is brought to you by Bluebird Organizing. Tell you a little bit more about Bluebird Organizing later in the show. Gerry, Steve Sarkisian still trying to get that roster organized, that class organized for 2026. Running back is one of those interesting positions, Gerry, because we've seen a lot of redundance, as it turns out, between the guys that Shard Choice liked and the guys Chad Scott liked. One of those, we'll call him a kind of the last guy that we didn't really know about. Amari Latimer was a guy that Tashard Choice really, really liked. Hadn't heard much between him and Texas, but lo and behold, Chad Scott really seems to like Amari Latimer, and he'll be on the 40 acres before too long.
Yeah, he is. He's coming in for an official visit June 13th through 15th, and I don't know if we broke the news or somebody broke the news on that. It may have been us. I can't keep track, but we reported that a couple of days ago. And the key there with Amari Latimer is he's been on campus before. He really likes the University of Texas. Texas was arguably the leader for Amari Latimer when Tashard Choice left to go to the NFL. Well, this is important development for Texas because this now gives Texas three running backs. At number two didn't stand a chance. This now gives Texas three running backs with official visit schedule, and that's key. Now, KJ Edwards kind of stands alone because he's more of that hybrid running back. He's a three-down back, but he's more of the smaller back that has jets, that's really good out of the backfield, really good runner. I mean, runs through contact at Carthage High, but he's also that more versatile guy, right? You can do a lot of things within the passing game. Amari Latimer is the downhill back, totally different type of back, totally different type of frame. He's more in the Xavier Crowell mold, although I think Crowell's just a great prospect. But that's important that Latimer's getting on campus because Crowell is likely an Alabama league. Now, I want to say this about Latimer. Yes, he's a downfield back, but you see some other skills from him here. He's not just a one-trick pony. He is a good basketball player. He shoots it well. You see his dexterity and his movement skills on a basketball court. He has really good hands, which shows up out of the backfield. He's got good feet, similar to Malcolm Brown in a way, Jeff. Somebody from – I give On Texas Football community chat. I give them the credit on that. Somebody brought that up, and I was like, that's not bad. And we brought up some old Malcolm Brown video, and I was like, that's a really good call. There's some similarities there. But Amari Latimer, getting him on campus June 13th is big because Xavier Crowell's probably leaning Alabama right now. And Texas wants a two-back class. They want different types of backs. Here you see Latimer lowering the boom at linebacker, kind of like Christian Clark did in high school, those thumper linebackers that are also really good running backs. So that's three running backs for official visits. And the key here, the battle for Latimer right now is three teams. It's Texas, Miami, Wisconsin, and he's visiting schools in that order in reverse. Wisconsin, May 30th, June 2nd, Miami, June 6th through 8th, Texas, the 13th through 15th. We'll see if he adds a fourth official visit to that. The key there, too, is he has two uncles that played at Miami. Does that give Miami the inside track? We'll have to see, but he definitely likes Texas.
Yeah, Gerry, I always like looking at where guys go to school, and I was looking at Sandy Creek. You get Kedrick Golson, Jabari Holloway, Brian Branch. Some guy named Calvin Johnson went to Sandy Creek also. So I heard he was allegedly good at the game of football.
He was allegedly good if he threw it anywhere in the stadium. But here's the key. When you're watching this guy's huddle, he is playing strong competition. When people are like, well, does he run away from anybody? You got to understand, in this area of Atlanta, in this district, in this region, almost every kid that's chasing him is a Division I caliber defensive back. There is serious football being played around Sandy Creek in that Atlanta area. So a lot of guys chasing him on this highlight video and trying to tackle him are Division I prospects themselves.
Gerry, I can see the Malcolm Brown concept because Malcolm, if those that watched him at Cibolo Steel will remember this, and those that didn't will just fill in the gaps. He was not trying to make people miss. He was a one-cut, get downhill, a nasty, violent downhill runner. And that's what you get with Amari Latimer. Gerry, real quick, is there something you notice about it? It seems like running backs from the Southeast, running back from SEC territory, you find more of these guys in that part of the country, the guys that really aren't concerned with making you miss, but you find guys that are just good, nasty, violent downhill runners.
I think there's something to that. Look, I think the states of Alabama and Georgia are really physical high school football states. They're spread, as you see, but they're still newer spread. Texas has been older spread, right? Even started way back in the Art Briles day of spread football. There's still a transition period here where these kids still come from physical youth football, right? Middle school football, where everything hasn't spread, trickled down. And I always say this about kids in Florida. I know we're talking about Georgia running back. I literally haven't covered a running back that wasn't physical. And he could be 5'8", 165, or he could be 6'1", 220. And he's a physical kid. And those are the kids I've always seen in the state of Florida. And I think Georgia is similar in that regard.
Jerry, when you look at running back, how many running backs ultimately you think Texas wants in this class? Is it a 2-back class, or could it be 3 if it's the right 3?
I don't think so. I think it's 2. Because I think James Simon's obviously having a really good spring. Ricky Stewart's kind of on that Trey Wisner path where he needs a year physically to get there. But then once that happens, I think he can be a part of the equation. But I think Sark likes the 2 running back classes. And I think there's 2 really good possibilities for Texas in this class that are different backs. The whole key is if you ever see a 1 running back class, it may just be because Texas didn't get 2 backs that are different, right? And they don't want to sign 2 of the same guy in their mind in the class.
Jerry, let's go to wide receiver. We'll start with Jabari Mack, who's a guy that Texas really, really likes, committed to LSU, but Texas has been on him the whole time throughout his recruitment. Texas, it's been a minute since Texas got a Destron guy. Gerald Wilbon, Jerry, is the only one I can think of, but
wow.
Chris Jackson squarely in this recruitment. He's not giving up on Jabari Mack by any stretch.
Man, that was a good recall, Jeff. That's a good one, Gerald Wilbon.
Useless knowledge is good for something every now and then.
That's your recruiting expertise. I love it. Yeah, so Jabari Mack is interesting because, Jeff, I know you remember this at the junior day. His sister was wearing the gold shoes with purple socks and had a purple streak or 2 in her hair, and I was like, that's not good for Texas. Yeah. And then he committed I'm like, look, she didn't have burnt orange on, okay? The total different of that. She had LSU purple and gold on. And then he committed to LSU. But he's kept his recruitment wide open since that time. He was on campus recently. He's scheduled to be on campus again in April 26th. And then he's scheduled to be on campus June 13th through 15th for an official visit, along with visiting LSU the last weekend, 20th through 22nd, A&M before that, and Ohio State. So the recruitment is in the balance for LSU. LSU's got a battle to hold on to him, but Texas is a school that's got him on campus more than anybody else outside of LSU. And I think Texas is gearing up and likes the battle, and we'll see which direction it goes. But they're in it to win it. They're going to try. They like Jabari Mack quite a bit. The question at the end of the day was, you can visit 5-6 times, but are you actually going to flip is the question.
Yeah. Jerry, not just Jabari Mack, but recruits in Louisiana, period. We know college staffs, they are like sharks when they smell blood in the water. And it seems like for the last, 12 to 15 months, Brian Kelly's just lived on the hot seat. This could be an opportunity, Jerry, if things start to fall apart for LSU and Brian Kelly. That class could be ripe for the picking.
Yeah, so look, what'll be interesting for me with LSU is it's schools that lead with NIL. And I do think there's some of that in this class for LSU, certainly. What happens when the house settlement comes down? What happens when the profit sharing kicks in? Did you make promises that may be tougher to keep if the scenario changes? We'll see. But I know this. The schools that lead with NIL tend to lose more guys at the end of classes, whether that's USC, whether that's Texas A&M, whether that's LSU. I mean, remember the guys that were committed to LSU last year and who actually didn't sign with LSU. So I think that is something to watch. But look, I'll say this. It's a big year for Brian Kelly at LSU. It's either, Garrett Nussmeier's a second-year quarterback. They did very well in the portal. But this is the year that he's either going to grab the attention of the fan base or they're going to totally turn on him. And once a fan base totally turns on you at LSU, for those of us that have covered this for a while, recruiting gets a little more difficult. Because in that state, you turn on any radio station for any talk show, and man, and it's ugly if they're not behind their coach. And it's bleep, 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 and it's all it is. And so Brian Kelly needs to have a good year, else recruiting in his own home state is going to get a little more difficult.
Jerry, let's stick at wide receiver because you mentioned Texas A&M. Let's talk about the Aggies because they've got Aaron Gregory committed. We'll go back. to the state of Georgia. And like you said, not only you love him, Jerry, the Texas staff loves him. And that's another guy committed to an SEC school. Chris Jackson's not giving up on him.
No, Aaron Gregory, I think, is one of the very best prospects in the country in this class. There you see him. He's 6'2", long arm, but he's quick off the line, and he's got after the catch ability, right? So he's not just an X outside receiver where you're throwing him 50-50 balls, you're running back shoulders, you're running fades with. This is a guy who plays both sides of the ball. But again, he's a fast starter. He gets in those routes quick. He's got some change of direction ability, some ability after the catch. Now, he can do this. He can run a go route, and he can go run under a football, right? And he can make those adjusted body adjustment catches that are very difficult. I just think this guy's one of the best receivers in the class. Really good double move there, gave him the little shoulder. But a guy that, look, A&M got on campus, got him committed early, but they have a real battle to hold on to him. There's a lot of people in Georgia that don't think Aaron Gregory will ultimately sign with A&M. We'll see on that. But he's scheduled to be in to Texas for an official visit June 13th. Texas is working to get him on campus before then. But one of the better receivers in the country. And again, in the state of Georgia, like the state of Florida, Texas is putting more, and I say resources. When I mean resources, time spent going to schools, feet on the ground in the Peach State than ever before.
Yeah, Kirby Smart can't take all of them, so you can find you some gems in Georgia. Jerry, I want to get your take on this. Rod Babers and I talked about this earlier this week. You look at the kind of receivers Sark has targeted in the last two classes, kind of getting away from that Devontae Smith, Xavier Worthy body type, going for more of kind of the 6'2", 200-plus type guy. Is this Sark trying to counter bigger, more physical corners in the SEC, getting away from the body type? Or is this just a case of, hey, the guys on their board just happen to have this body type?
No, I think that it's definitely something by design. And I think it's twofold. Yes, the bigger, longer arm corners in the SEC, and then Arch Manning's strengths as a quarterback, and then what they're recruiting at quarterback. Look, Sark wants to stretch the field vertically and horizontally. And I hate to say this. I don't know any other way to say this, but with Arch, you're going to see the deep ball vertical shots outside the numbers along the boundary come back into play. Back shoulder fades outside the number along the boundary come back into play. Those just weren't Quinn's strengths. So I don't think we saw what Sark ideally wants to do with his passing game under Quinn, just because those weren't his strengths as a quarterback. Now with Arch is going to gunsling that thing, and he's a really good back shoulder guy. He has really good timing there and accuracy there. So and trajectory. So I think that's what you're going to see. So I think it's twofold. Yes, and to pull that off and to maximize that, you have to have bigger receivers, longer wingspans, guys that can adjust to the ball, guys that turn 50-50s into 70-30s. And so I think you're seeing that. And then I also think another piece of that's the corners in the SEC. They're taller, longer limb guys who can really run, and you have to be able to win the contested matchups when the ball's in the air in those scenarios to maximize your offense, and especially Jeff, in the red zone.
All right, I mentioned this at the top, but this edition of On Texas Football brought to you by Bluebird Organizing. Is your wife feeling overwhelmed? Does she constantly mention how she wishes she could find items more easily, or how she wants to park her car in the garage but there's no space? Maybe she's complaining about tripping all over the kids' toys. Are you as her husband feeling at a complete loss with how you can help? Don't worry, with spring cleaning well on its way and Mother's Day just around the corner, give your wife the gift of a lifetime with a customized organizing session from Bluebird Organizing. Perry, the owner of Bluebird Organizing, will come into your space without judgment and give your wife the organized kitchen, closet, playroom, or garage of her dreams. Plus, Perry will take all the donations for you at the end. It's going to leave you and your family ready to relax and enjoy the new space. It's time to give your wife a gift she'll love for years to come. Call or text 737-346-7779 to book your free in-person consultation today. Again, that's 737-346-7779 for Perry and Bluebird Organizing. All right, Jerry, we're going to wrap this edition up talking about tight ends and O-line really quick. Hezi Kent, tight end. We're call this the Peach State edition, I guess. I don't know, because we're sticking in the state of Georgia. Jerry, what's the latest with Hezi Kent?
Yeah, look, I talked to somebody very close to Hezi Kent in that recruitment, and they thought the visit went really, really well for Texas. Here you see the 6'5", 280-pound, let's just call him athlete. Tight end, whatever. I don't think he's a lock to be an offensive lineman or anything. I actually think this guy could be a jumbo tight end. There's a difference maker blocker. Look how big he is. He has got real size. but he's got tremendous feet. And he's got better than offensive tackle athleticism. He's a unique football prospect. But look, Texas is right there in this one with Hezi Kent. Like, Georgia's not really in the mix. It's Florida, it's Miami, it's Texas, and it's Florida State, and it's Alabama ahead of a July 12th announcement. He looked really good physically on Saturday when he was there last weekend. It looked more like in the 275, 280 range. So if Texas is looking for that big jumbo tight end, they could use it. Oh, man, look at him throw it. Oh, boy, that's Sark could have fun with that. But maybe not. No, Sark, don't do that if he goes to Texas. But, look, I would say this. He could be that big tight end, H-back type of player that you could use in the blocking game, a la Juan Davis, but actually could play tight end. We'll see which way this goes, but he had a tremendous visit to Texas. Texas is very much in it, headed into the official visit. And again, they're battling the Sunshine State. That's FSU, Florida, and Miami, along with Alabama. Those right now are the 5 schools that are out front for Hezi Kent ahead of his July 12th announcement. But Texas did very well on the unofficial visit last weekend.
That was 280 pounds on a tunnel screen if you need it.
I like it.
Yeah, no question, Jerry. This is a talented kid. And as much 12 personnel as Sark runs using 2 tight ends, there's room for you if you're a tight end that can play at Texas. Jerry, let's go to the O-line. Felix Ojo's taking visits, and John Turntine is bending bars on squat racks. What's the latest with O-line?
John Turntine, I mean, I know if Texas fan base is worried about his weight, but he just squatted 600 pounds. It's out there on social media, on his dad's social media. Squatted 600 pounds before his senior year in high school. So just imagine him, just Texas fans for a second say, okay, I don't care if he's 265, 270 right now. I think about him at 305, squatting 700 pounds. That's an elite athlete at offensive tackle. And tell me what you think you have. A hell of a football player. And look, he had a really good visit to Texas last weekend. Texas, A&M, Michigan, Tennessee are your 4. I still think he stays close to home. We'll see if I'm wrong. I've been wrong many times before. I just feel like he might stay closer to home at the end of the day. So a Texas versus Texas A&M recruitment. So the in-state offensive tackles Kyle Flood had on campus each of the last 2 weekends, Turntine and Felix Ojo. Ojo will make an official visit to Colorado prior to all his Ole Miss visit and then his June official visits. But Texas is doing well with both in-state tackles. I'm not saying they're going to get both, but they're doing well with both right now. The whole key on offensive line recruiting is how do the dominoes fall come July and August? Because you have Cody Green, the Oregon commitment that'll visit. You have Sam Roseborough, who I think Texas leads for out of Clearwater, Florida. His mom lives in Austin. You have Malachi Lee out of Hawaii that Texas, I think, has a shot at. Sam Utu, Texas either leader or 50-50 for him. Then Kenye Pepe going to visit June 20th. He's originally out of SoCal, goes to IMG, one of the best in the country. There are a ton of talented offensive linemen that are scheduled, and a ton, probably weight-wise too, if you add them all up, but that are scheduled to visit Texas coming up in April 26th here and then into June for official visits. And it's really going to be how do the dominoes fall on these guys is going to tell you at the end of the day, how does Texas go from 2 to 5 in the class? Who are those other 3 going to be? I think a lot of it's going to be timing, how the dominoes fall.
Jerry, one more real quick. We'll go to defense, and but we'll stay with beef. We'll stay in the trenches. Dylan Berrymon out of Louisiana, Texas, makes his top 6 with Houston, Mississippi State, North Carolina, Purdue, and USC. Texas obviously in the top 6, Jerry. Things are looking pretty good.
Yeah, and we had to bring the show back west to Louisiana along I-20, but Monroe, Ouachita Baptist. I think Texas is the favorite for Dylan Berryman. He's been here a number of times. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but I am saying Texas is working from a position of strength ahead of the June 13th through 15th official visit. And look, we'll see if North Carolina can come on late in this recruitment, because of all the other schools in there, I think Texas was definitely the leader.
All right. Thank you, Jerry, for all of that information. Again, you can get it from Jerry here on the channel or over at ontexasfootball.com. Again, $49.95 get you 1 year of access for On Texas Football. Use the promo code OTFOG. That's OTFOG. That gets you 1 year at ontexasfootball.com for $49.95. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, and thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff and you, the viewer, for continuing to make On Texas Football the fastest growing YouTube channel in the Texas market. For Gerry Hamilton, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you for watching, and until next time, hook 'em.